Joshua's farewell. In our last story, we learned of Israel battling against 5 allied armies. God sent hail from the sky and caused the sun to stand still until Israel prevailed over their foe. In this story, we learn about Israel transitioning into a brief era of peace and victory. Joshua calls for the people of Israel to stay steadfast and obey God before departing to be with his Lord, as inspired by the book of Joshua. Blood and struggle. This had marked Israel's past few years under Joshua. Though the battles were difficult, they watched the faithfulness of God unfold time and time again before them. Israel's land increased each week, and it was time for the land to be divided and given to the 12 tribes of Israel. Luckily, Moses had guided Joshua and the elders how to divide up the land before he had died, so they began to allocate plots of land as instructed. Caleb, a humble servant and soldier that was one of the 12 spies under Moses, came to Joshua with a request. "I was 40 years old when you and I first saw the promised land as spies," Caleb said. "Like you, I did not waver or compromise. I knew from the very beginning that God would give us the land, and the Lord has blessed me enough to live another 45 years, so I may enter into it with my family. Moses once promised me that all the land I explored would be mine, and I have waited long to inherit it. If you would give me the land promised to me, I will fight to the very end to defend it." Caleb, though 85 years of age, stood tall and strong. Joshua looked at his dearest and closest friend and blessed him. The two of them had seen an entire generation pass away before getting to enter into the promised land. They had endured hunger, war, and struggle together. Giving Caleb the land brought joy to his soul. Caleb gathered a small army to go and conquer the land that was promised to him. His armor was old and stained with years of war, but the heart it protected was filled with new life and hope. Caleb offered his daughter's hand in marriage to whoever would help him conquer the nearby city. One man rose to the occasion, and he and his wife were given the nearby springs. Caleb's family was blessed for hundreds of generations afterwards. The armies of Israel swept through the land of Canaan and seized what had been promised to them. Every tribe went into their land and dwelled there with their family. God worked with and through his people, and their dreams for almost 100 years in the wilderness had been realized. Years had passed, and Israel's blades began to collect dust in their homes. Peace came upon Israel, like the slow and rising tide. Joshua was old, and years of battle had worn his body. His heart, mind, and soul were preparing to depart from the earth. Joshua gathered all the people of Israel by his side. As Moses did before him, Joshua had a few last commands for the people. Joshua's voice was deep and raspy, as if it were calloused from years of yelling in battle. Moses spoke to the people like a shepherd did to his sheep, but Joshua spoke to them as a general did to his beloved soldiers. He raised his voice and said, "You have all seen what God has done for your sake. You have land for your children to live and thrive. It stretches from sea to sea. God will not forsake you, and he will continue to bring your enemies to their knees before you. Be strong, and do not waver from keeping God's commands close to your hearts." Joshua choked up as he spoke, remembering the tender love and care God had shown them. God was truly their conquering king, and it was an honor to serve him. Joshua continued speaking to the people, saying, "Cling to the Lord, for our victory, our land, and our lives are nothing without him. One man and God is enough to destroy an army of thousands. Remember this, and be careful not to stray." Joshua recounted the great and mighty things God had done for Israel, for his greatest fear was they would forget how faithful God was to them. Without Joshua to remind them, would they truly be steadfast? Would they remain a people that clung to their God as Jacob once did? Time would tell, and Joshua would not be there to find out. He looked at the sea of faces listening to him. The children of God, what a fickle, flawed, and faithless people they were. Yet God loved them. He fought for them and provided for them. Joshua smiled, feeling the same selfless love towards them. Joshua spoke loud and clear for all to hear. There will be many other things that desire your worship. Evil will lurk at your doorstep, so choose. Choose this day whom you will serve. Serve the gods of the Amorites or the gods of Egypt. But as for me and my house, we shall serve the Lord. A roar of applause followed Joshua's words. The people answered Joshua, saying, "It is God who has delivered us time and time again. We will serve the Lord, for he is our God." Joshua shook his head, smiling. He knew they would not. He knew that even now some of them kept idols in their tents. Some of them lived in adultery, greed, and secrecy. "You are not able to," Joshua said, tears falling from his eyes. The people denied it, telling him that they would be faithful. So Joshua had them renew their covenant with the Lord, and they laid a stone in the sanctuary of God as a reminder. Joshua departed from the earth at 110 years old. Joshua's unwavering warrior spirit led Israel into many victories. Cities trembled at the name of Joshua, and entire kingdoms raised their hands in surrender when we came. Yet Joshua's greatest triumph was his devotion to God and his unrelenting desire to serve his people. The people of Israel would start well and remain faithful to God, but as Joshua's memory faded, so would their devotion. Yet Joshua was never the hero of their story, nor was Moses or Joseph. It was God that was their steadfast and loyal hero, and it would be God who would appoint deliverers to snatch Israel from the jaws of destruction, time and time again. As Joshua breathed his last breath, the era of the judges began.